Submarines have always been shrouded in secrecy, their movements mysterious, their capabilities undisclosed, unheard, undiscussed. But for the next 30 minutes, we'll take you where few civilians have ever been, into the deep underbelly of one of India's most potent military submarines. In another few hours, this submarine will set sail with a crew of almost 70 submariners. She will soon dive into the depths of the subcontinent's waters. Cloaked by miles of ocean and hours of isolation, she will silently patrol the waters to engage in subsurface warfare exercises. But before she sets out, this potent strike platform has to be dressed for the kill. She has to be armed for combat. It's a critical operation that hinges high on precision. One wrong move and it could spell doom.
Things that can go wrong is that parameters are not conforming to the ones which are actually there, supposed to be there by the books. Or say for example, if I have one of my torpedoes has an air leak or an oxygen leak, that may lead to a lot of problem in the compartment, wherein you may have a small spark that just lead to an explosion. So we take care of all that.
Officer Chief, switch on system bay to report readiness.
Supervised by the weapons officer, the torpedoes and missiles are guided into their respective tubes in the torpedo room located in the nose of the submarine. In fact, it's not uncommon to see submariners frequently crawl through the length of the tube to bring in the weapon. Each weapon takes around 20 minutes to load, and there are almost 18 torpedo and missile positions for the taking. This can make weapons loading a long drawn-out affair.
You load the weapon, onboard checks are done, and once all that is over, then 1/3 of your job is over, that is, you have accepted the weapons on board, and then starts the onboard procedure where you would, whether you are by the mission required to arm the torpedoes, what state of readiness are you in.
It's not just weapons that make their way into the submarine's belly before she embarks on a mission. As she may not touch land for up to 45 days, it's time to stock up on food and logistical supplies. Almost everything edible finds its way into the submarine's larder, from fresh fruits and vegetables that may last a few days to canned rations and Tetra packs that can survive longer.
Almost tons of ration comes on board, and we stack it up in the rooms which are specialized for it. For example, if it's fresh chicken or mutton, then it is stored at a temperature which is -7 degrees. If you just get rice, then rice is stored in normal room temperature, so there's a different room for it. Tinned provisions are stored separately. Fresh milk is stored separately.
This is space utilization at its best, where every item has its designated place.
Stand by to the side! Pipe!
Once the submarine is completely ready for her mission, it's time for a final status check. Time for all department heads to present their department reports to the captain.
Electrical department, ready for sea, sir.
Good on to electrical department.
Yes, sir. Engineering department, ready for sea, sir.
From the engineering officer to the electrical officer to the captain's second in command, the executive officer.
Boat ready for sea, sir.
Good Chani, front of the station.
Everyone formally assures the boss that the submarine is ready to leave the harbor. The sea has often been a seductive mistress for the seamen because knowing its dangers, they go back to it again and again. The ropes have been cast and it's time for another prolonged deployment. As the ropes are cast off and the submarine's black fin-shaped sail slices through the harbour waters, the action shifts to the bridge, a small open platform on the sail. This is where the captain prefers to command his submarine from when on surface. She is steered out of the harbour by the navigation officer, the pilot of the sub.
Coxswain Bridge.
215 turning to starboard, sir.
Check ship set.
Ship set 230 coming on 240 30 up starboard will sir.
Traffic in channel.
Traffic channel is nil, sir.
It's a slow way out and one that's peppered with a host of checks and reports, from traffic in the channel to tide reports and sea depth.
Check depth below keel.
Check depth below keel. 3.5 meters, ready to obey telegraph, sir.
Range approximately 5 kilometers. Pilot cable, one right, sir.
Fix time 10, good fix. Make submarine on track for course 240. 7 cables to below to next course 270, sir.
Casing ready up, sir. Shut and lock fin door.
Fin door shut and lock, sir.
Very good. Captain sir, anchor and casing secured for sea. Indicator boy checked in lock position. All hands in, fin door shut and lock, sir.
Control bridge, all hands in, fin door shut and lock. Sound action station for head count.
Aye, sir. All hands in. Fin door shut and lock. Action station for head count.
Deep down, everyone else is ordered to report to their respective workstations for a final head count, only to make sure no one is left behind. Most of the crew have by now changed into their submarine disposables, a medicated cotton uniform that's worn for 3 days before being discarded. These use and throw outfits are quite a leveler, as no submariner wears his rank on this uniform.
Except sharpshooter.
Very good.
Once out at sea with a predetermined course, it's time to clear up the deck, lock up and slither down into the belly of the submarine. The officer on watch and the lookout are the last ones to climb down. Meanwhile, up above, the hatch is closed. The submarine is now ready to dive deep and disappear.
Report diving stations. Diving room. Major diving stations correct. Diving room. Diving correct.
Captain sir, diving stations correct, sir.
Raise up periscope.
It's routine for every submariner, standard operating procedure, as they say.
Diving now. Diving now.
And yet, every time the Grey Lady goes down, she demands undivided attention from all personnel on board. Because when a submarine dives, it's always a state of high alert. And the control room, or the nerve center of the boat, is in a flurry of activity.
Captain sir, depth 1.5 meters.
Coxswain depth 9 meters. TDK is off bubble.
This is where the orders originate. In other words, this is the captain's remote control.
Depth 9 meters, sir.
Very good.
When a submarine dives, she lets in water into her main ballast tanks. Like most military subs, here too, these are located between the outer and the inner hull. As the submarine gets heavier, the Archimedes principle takes over and the boat submerges.
9 meters, 3 degrees off the bubble. Coxswain depth 9 meters, 3 degrees off the bubble.
This submarine's first halt is at 9 meters underwater, commonly called the periscope depth. Here, she may be hidden from the surface, but with the help of these retractable steel tubes that are raised, the captain can get a 360-degree view of the world above.
60 meters, 5 degree aft bubble.
Aye sir, dive to 60 meters, 5 degree out bubble.
Ideally, a submarine should neither float nor sink.
Slurred main motor.
She should be able to maintain neutral buoyancy. But the submarine's weight changes constantly. Fuel and rations get depleted. Weapons get launched. Seawater changes density and temperature.
Check freshwater temperature.
So, neutral buoyancy almost always becomes a complicated continuing calculation.
Depth 60 meters sir.
Aye sir, trim the boat, jet slow ahead, depth 60 meters.
While diving, the inspection of every compartment at intervals is crucial because the dangers of the deep sea are many. It's always waiting there for you to make a mistake.
Captain sir, compartment inspected correct, depth 60 meters.
Very good.
When a submarine does a deep dive, it almost feels like you can hear her squeak and moan. The slightest mistake and things can pop. The water can gush in, and God forbid, but if she ever sinks below the maximum depth, the pressure can completely crush a submarine. She can go off like a bomb. Once the submarine settles at a comfortable depth and all inspections are complete, only a handful of men stay back in the control room to monitor the essential controls. It's time to revert to a watch state. In 1870, when Jules Verne wrote his 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, little did he know that he'd inspire a generation of submariners. But it was only during the two world wars that the true value of submarines were recognized by navies of either side. And immediately thereafter, in the Cold War that followed, United States and the Soviet Union used their submarines in oceans across the world to play cat and mouse games. The Cold War today is just a page from history, but submarines aren't. Even today, the world of operational submarines is as classified as before. Deny the enemy the use of the sea. Little wonder then, when Indian submarines set out on patrol and subsurface exercise drills. Their missions are a closely guarded secret. Not even the submarine's captain is detailed about his current assignment. The brief lies enclosed in a sealed brown envelope in the captain's vault, and he opens the envelope only when the submarine is at a comfortable distance from harbor. For Commander Deepak Bisht, this is another critical assignment, another dose of battle inoculation where he needs to test the combat readiness of his submarine and her crew. Once he has internalized the mission brief, he plots the submarine's future course in the chart house with his navigation officer. Okay, Captain, so we are in the nerve center of the submarine. I suppose you control the entire submarine sitting on this chair.